Are you ready to grow and monetize a successful podcast of your own? It's your host, Sober Steve, the podcast guy. And if you haven't already, head on over to my website, www.sobersteve.com, where you can find information on not only signing up for tune-ups and brainstorm sessions to be featured on a future episode of Podcasting Badass, but also to take the quiz, Are you ready to grow and monetize a successful podcast? At the end of the quiz, you will get your podcasting circle of success, which gives you a readiness score of how ready you are to level up your podcasting journey. And I am here to help you along the way. So head on over to that. And in the meantime, enjoy today's episode. Hey there, podcasting badasses. It's your host, Sober Steve. And today we're going to be talking about 4 signs you are a podcaster. Yes, if you are already podcasting, these will just be words of affirmation to really prove that you are on the right track or on the right journey. And if you're not podcasting, this will be the perfect episode to listen to find out whether you have a podcast in you that you might just not know about. The first sign that you would be a podcaster or would make a great podcaster is that the idea of being a podcaster sounds awesome. One of my takeaways from my last podcasting convention was studies showing how people respond to the word podcaster today. The study was done by the Sounds Profitable report. And the way that people respond to the word podcaster is the top 6 responses involved respectable, valuable, skilled, rewarding, professional, and something I'd like to do. So if any of those words ring true to you, it just goes to show that this is now a very reputable industry to be in. It's now the great time to be a podcaster and to start this journey or really dedicate yourself to investing your time and energy into making this journey a success. I know that I love every bit of podcasting and always have, but right now it is a better time than ever with the way that people are considering podcasters in high regard. And if you are one of those people who thinks being a podcaster sounds awesome, then definitely becoming a podcaster would be awesome, because I've never heard anyone who podcasts or even had a podcast that faded away that doesn't look back on the time that they were behind the mic as something fond and exciting and something that they loved. So if it's exciting you and you haven't been behind the mic yet, definitely try it out. You can start by guesting on podcasts. That's a great way to dip your toe into podcasting, and then starting a podcast of your own. Another sign that you're meant to be a podcaster is that you are authentic and passionate about the things you love. Do you light up a room when you get to talk about something that you're passionate about? That's an excellent sign that you're a podcaster, because that is what you are all about when you are podcasting. When you are in your element and you let your guards down and your walls down and you embrace your weirdness, that is the recipe for a successful, awesome, badass podcaster. You can have a podcast about anything in the world, but the more specific you get and the more willing you are to really geek out and embrace how much you love it truly and fully, and how you let your guard down and don't worry about what people will think about you when you talk about it with your heart. I know that anytime that I'm in any room, there's a very few things that I can light up and talk about all day long, and podcasting has always been one of them since the moment that I started my podcast listening journey about 8 years ago. But especially since I became a podcaster a little over 4 years ago, it's just something that I could talk about all day, every day, as well as my sobriety, which is what I do on my other podcast. So if you have something like that, something that when you think of the topic or when you think about what this podcast could be about, the idea of talking about it for hours and hours over months and months, for over hundreds of episodes, if that sounds exciting rather than daunting, not only are you a podcaster, but you have a podcast within you talking about that subject and giving your perspective on it. Because if you can talk about it with the excitement and vulnerability and authenticity that you can talk about it with your friends or your family on a larger scale, people are going to come to you like your honey. It's amazing the magic that happens when you show up behind the mic as your true self. I've been on both sides before, where I was trying to be a version that I thought people wanted to be, and then I had me showing up as myself, and the downloads skyrocketed, the listener feedback skyrocketed, everything changed when I just started showing up. So if you can do that right from the start, or if you can start doing it right now, that's definitely a sign that you are a podcaster who is going to be successful. The third sign that you would make a great podcaster, and this is where I might get some of you, is that you love habits, routine, and consistency. Yes, this is where most people might cringe or back out, or this is what gets a lot of people when it comes to pod fading as well, is that they have trouble making this a part of their routine. Most podcasters report wow results, sometimes around their 100th episode, yet only roughly 6% make it that long, and only 10% even make it halfway to 50 episodes as of right now when I'm recording this in 2024. Those aren't great odds. And the biggest difference is that these are people who had trouble making it part of their routine. I've talked with so many people where they just think they're going to skip 1 week because they have something come up that is so important, that is more important than their consistency for their podcast. And so they take the week off and then they never come back, ever. And it's heartbreaking when you hear these stories about that. And so getting the chance to be able to fold your podcasting into part of your routine, where you know that in the past you can do this. It might even sound scary at first, the idea of having a new part of your routine and something that you have to do every single week. A lot of people will try and make excuses over how busy their schedule already is when thinking about the idea of starting podcasting, when in reality, especially with support on the back end with editing and processing, it doesn't take that long to do a podcast each week. It is just a matter of being able to do it on a consistent basis and showing up that will get people. So I want you to look back into a time in your life where you've had something become part of your routine that wasn't before. Maybe it was starting a fitness routine that gave you great results. Maybe it was something that you learned how to do, a hobby or a passion that you picked up that you hadn't done before, but that it took time to get skilled or comfortable at doing. Many of you have formed new habits, routines, and are capable of consistency as an adult. And if you can apply those skills that you used in the past when you mastered those new skills and turn them into part of your routine, if you can apply that to podcasting, you're going to be successful. There's no way about it. You're going to be destined to become a top 10% podcasting badass if you're able to show up authentically week by week by week by week. That consistency, your ability to cling to habits and routines and always be willing to show up for your listeners because you believe in your message, that's a podcasting badass who's going to have tons of success. I just know it because I've seen it firsthand time after time. And lastly, for now, although I reserve the right to revisit this later, another sign you are clearly a podcaster is you already know you have it within you. You are at least a few episodes into my podcast right now about how to be a podcasting badass. So I would put money on the fact that you have the heart and the mind of a podcaster and have a successful show within you. You've listened through this entire episode, and hopefully the idea is getting you excited. The idea that you can either turn your podcasting dream into a reality, or this podcast that might have been feeling heavy or scary or daunting or not giving the results that you need possibly or wanted or were hoping for. If you're ready to really take it and level it up, I have an exercise that can help you confirm what you might already know, and that is that you are a podcaster and that you are unstoppable and that you just have to decide to do the thing. So here's my exercise. What is stopping you? Write out all the reasons why you aren't ready to grow or monetize your podcast yet. So this could be, if you haven't made a podcast yet, write out all the reasons why you haven't started it yet, all the things holding you back or blocking you. And if you have a podcast right now, take a moment to write out all your pain points or think about your pain points. What's letting you down with your podcast? Where do you feel you could be showing up better? What results were you hoping for that you aren't seeing? And why might you not be seeing them? And be honest with yourself about these things and write them all out. You can pause this if you need. That's the magic of podcasting. And if you're driving, please don't write while you're driving, or stop while you're driving. Drive and then come back to this exercise later. But write out what's holding you back from really succeeding as a podcaster or starting your podcasting journey or leveling it up. And when you are done, at the top of that list, write or rename the list, reasons why I am hiding from success. And look at those reasons again with that new perspective. None of these reasons are things that can probably prevent you from being able to actually do the thing. You are all capable of being an amazing and wonderful podcast You all have an amazing podcast within you that can grow and monetize and bring you success. It is just a matter of getting the help and the resources and the education and the dedication to be able to do so. Again, I'll ask you, how does that feel? And are you ready to be a podcasting badass? If you can get behind podcasting like a podcasting badass, if you've found this information helpful, before this episode ends, please stop what you're doing, go into the app that you're listening to, and leave a 5-star review. That is the ultimate thank you for podcasters. If this episode has inspired you at all, a 5-star review would be the greatest way to say, thanks, Steve. It would mean the world to me. And while you are there, make sure you hit that follow button so you can catch these new episodes each Monday. In the meantime, be well, you badasses.